Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how are you today? What we're going to be talking about today is 6 minutes. Yeah, that's how much time it takes. 6 minutes. An expert has issued a chilling warning about the looming specter of nuclear war, asserting that regardless of its origin, the catastrophic outcome remains the same, which is total annihilation. Did you know about the critical 6 minute window that confronts any sitting president in the event of detecting a missile launch, regardless of where it comes from? It's 6 minutes. Under the current U.S. doctrine of launch on warning, there is scant time for deliberation or assessment of the situation. The moment an intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM, is detected, the United States is poised to retaliate preemptively, ensuring that the devastating cycle of destruction is set in motion without hesitation. So there are grim mechanics behind this policy. The vigilant surveillance conducted by the U.S. Department of Defense's early warning system, particularly the SBIRS satellite constellation tasked with monitoring these threats. And this constant vigilance is a grim reminder of the perilous reality of nuclear deterrence, where any perceived threat triggers an irreversible cascade of destruction. Now, if you remember former President Ronald Reagan, he expressed skepticism about the rationality of unleashing Armageddon based on a fleeting blip on a radar screen. His sentiments echoed the sentiments of many who questioned the sanity of entrusting such grave decisions to the whims of a technological detection. Contrary to the cinematic portrayals, nuclear missiles cannot be recalled nor diverted once they are set in motion, condemning millions to a fate beyond comprehension. And the horrors of such detonation are beyond imagination, with the resulting mushroom cloud engulfing entire cities in a maelstrom of destruction. There is a unanimous consensus among political and also military figures that nuclear war is a sheer madness. The grim calculus of mutually assured destruction renders any notion of victory or triumph hollow and delusional. There are chilling repercussions of modern nuclear detonations and their catastrophic impact on the world as we know it. And multiple computer simulations have been conducted to assess the consequences of regional and large scale nuclear warfare in today's context. These simulations painted a grim picture in all scenarios where you have nuclear firestorms would unleash soot and smoke into the upper atmosphere, effectively blotting out the sun, triggering global crop failures. Within the first month post detonation, average global temperatures would plummet by approximately, say, 13 degrees Fahrenheit, surpassing even the temperature drop of the last ice age. Furthermore, the abrupt cooling of the ocean temperatures would lead to the expansion of the sea ice obstructing major ports and impeding shipping routes across the Northern Hemisphere. This disruption would severely hamper the distribution of essential goods, exacerbating food shortages in densely populated areas, such as in places like Shanghai. And the repercussions extend far beyond the surface. The marine ecosystems facing decimation as plummeting light levels disrupt the delicate balance of marine algae, the foundation of the marine food web. This catastrophic disruption would result in widespread famine in the oceans, crippling fishing industries and aquaculture worldwide.
General Flynn tweeted this morning at 7:38 a.m., this is a black swan event. Black swans normally come out of the world of finance, not military. The standard operating procedures for all U.S. ports, harbors, and bays that transit commerce and military activities are supposed to maintain an incredible level of discipline, rigor, and awareness for these very type events to not occur, ever. Yet here we are. There are harbor masters for every single one of these transit points in America that are in charge of assuring the safety of navigation. Start there. Black Swan event. This is going viral today, General, your statement about this, and rightfully so. You want to tell us more about this since you tweeted at 7:38 a.m.?
Yeah, I mean, there's been so much information that's come out. So a Black Swan event is something that is supposed to be unpredictable and unknowable. And with all the other craziness that's going on over in Europe and the Middle East, with China, our southern border, terrorist attacks in Russia, I just don't think that this is one that was predictable. Now, of course, we have federal agencies, we've had local agencies there in Baltimore, saying that the idea that it's a terrorist attack is off the table. I don't think at this early stage, and tragically there were some lives lost. It looks like at least six of these road workers that were up on the bridge late last night. Actually, their bodies have not been recovered, at least as of the last hour. But I just don't think we can take anything off the table. Some people have said that it looks like there was some type of cyber attack. I just don't know. And I don't think anybody really knows. The one thing that I do know is that this is definitely something that was not predicted. Nobody thought this was going to happen. The number of ships that we have transit various harbors and bays along our coastlines, Gulf Coast, East Coast, West Coast. I mean, Baltimore is one of the largest harbors, one of the largest commercial shipping bays in the country, harbors in the country. I actually come from up around in Rhode Island, Narragansett Bay, where we used to have an entire fleet. It is actually one of the largest car shipping commercial ports in the country, and that's up at Quonset Point. I've been in and out of Newport News in Norfolk. I've been down to Savannah. I've been on the Gulf Coast in Mobile, Alabama. I've been down to Corpus Christi. I've been out to the Oakland. I've been in San Diego. I've been on commercial vessels. And I have been on naval vessels. So, I have a pretty good background, at least in terms of knowledge of the discipline and the rigor that it goes on for the various protocols before they even get on board that ship to be able to pull it away from a dock and then debark on a transit out to sea. There's so much that goes into this. So to get to that point, right after they took off, and then something so severe happened. Now I just found out tonight, and you can't make this up, and I'm still confirming, but that the captain of this vessel is Ukrainian. So just add that to the craziness, right?
Shoot.
So, yeah. So anyway, we're going to find out more and more about this. The FBI agent in Baltimore just took over the job, I guess, yesterday, was appointed to this job yesterday. So there's just so many things that that are ongoing here.
General, we had Colonel Mills tell us earlier in his Substack tonight, he's saying that there are 4 ready reserve ships that are held in standby to carry U.S. forces, and they appear to be trapped behind the I-695 bridge tragedy until this is all cleaned up.
Well, one of the things that I do know about Baltimore Harbor, because I've been up there before, and we actually, when I was at DIA, we had some capabilities up in that specific area, but that's a fairly significant military operation in the Baltimore Harbor area. I mean, it's very significant, and not just it's not just commercial; it's a military operations. So I was afraid to hear something like that. I was not aware of that specifically, but it is a place where ships go to get refit. So there's an awful lot that happens in that harbor. It's one of the largest harbors, certainly in the United States, if not the world. And so I just don't. With everything that's ongoing in the world today, I think that taking off the table before the investigation has been completed, I've been part of investigation teams for helicopters that have gone down, for major accidents in military units, and you don't solve these things in this period of time. You just don't. And everything that we've seen so far, to me, I find this incident, I called it an incident today. I haven't called it an accident yet. President Biden called it an accident. I'm not there yet.
Judge Napolitano just recently had on Scott Ritter, and I guess there has been a document that has been signed. But maybe you can tell our audience about it, Colonel. Several former military guys, including Colonel McGregor, has signed a document to the White House telling the White House, look, you better wake up. We've got a nuclear alert on the horizon here, correct?
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
This group is called VIPS. It's veterans in the intelligence community that have come together and signed a letter. And as we talked about today, Brandon, Colonel McGregor's never signed one of these before. And he signed this memo. It's a memo to the President of the United States and all leadership in the U.S. government that highlights and emphasizes the risk we're at for nuclear war between the United States, NATO, and Russia at this point. And it's very interesting that McGregor went ahead and signed that. I read it and listened to Ritter's discussion with Judge Napolitano. Had I been part of that group, I probably would have signed it too.
Wow, General Flynn. Before I play the first clip, what are your thoughts on this report?
I completely agree with Rob, and I think it's the Veteran Intelligence Professionals for Sanity. VIPS is the organization, and Ritter's a part of it. I did listen to that part of the interview. I'm very concerned about this. I probably too would have signed the letter. I haven't seen the letter, but listening to it and knowing these gentlemen, they're very professional guys, and we've spoken quite a bit about this on this network for a couple of weeks now. With everything going on, with what the French are up to, with what that now we see the Russians are blaming the United Kingdom and the United States for this recent terrorist attack, what we know about the Nord Stream pipeline, I mean, et cetera, et cetera. We are moving toward a time where nuclear weapons may be back on the table for use. If these NATO nations end up sending the numbers that they're talking about sending to what was described in that interview to Western Ukraine, if that's the case, we're walking into a massive war here, unlike we have seen in probably since World War II, especially Europe.
Wow. Let's go to the first clip. We'll have both of you guys respond. I got 2 clips tonight. Here we go.
Well, first of all, just so the American people understand, your listeners understand how serious this is, a French regiment, which is the approximate size of force that's going to be needed to take the 700 French soldiers currently in Romania up to the 2,000 level, which I write about in this memorandum that was published by the Veterans Intelligence Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity memorandum that was published the other day. They've been put on notice for deployment. So this is real. This isn't hypothetical. This isn't fake. This is real. So what are the consequences? I call it the camel under, under the tent, because there's an old Arab expression that don't let the camel stick his nose under the tent flap, because the second that nose comes in, the whole camel's coming in. These 2,000 by themselves don't do anything. The Ukrainians are losing 1,000 men a day plus. So sending 2,000 French soldiers to Ukraine buys Ukraine 2 days. That's it. But it's not the 2,000. It's getting that nose under, then getting other NATO members to send troops in, the goal of which is to turn that 2,000 into 60,000. That's a statement by a Polish politician, I believe either the foreign minister or the president, 60,000 that then could be converted to a NATO force and have a de facto NATO occupation of West Ukraine. And everybody's going, that's a good idea. That's what we need to do. The French are like, yes, we need to take decisive action. Ladies and gentlemen, that is an act of war. Russia has said it's an act of war. Russia will destroy these 60,000. And if you think for a second that NATO is going to allow 2,000 French soldiers or 60,000 NATO soldiers to be killed by the Russians without doing anything, you're wrong. They will respond to defend this. That means they have to strike the bases where the Russian aircraft came that destroyed this NATO force. Some of those bases are dual-hatted. They have conventional bombers, which are the ones taking out Ukrainian targets, and nuclear bombers, the strategic force waiting in reserve in case there's a nuclear war. Russian nuclear doctrine says that if a conventional power attacks Russia in a way that diminishes its strategic nuclear deterrence, that is a red line that can lead to a Russian nuclear retaliation. We are talking about nuclear war here, and it's on full automatic, meaning that once this begins, it doesn't stop until the world is ended. It's on full automatic. That's why we published this memorandum, because as an American, I'd like, at least before I die in a nuclear holocaust, I'd like Congress, my representatives, to discuss this. Is this what we want? Do we want France to take control of our national security and initiate an action that will lead to American nuclear weapons and Russian nuclear weapons being exchanged? I'd like Congress to talk about that. I'd like the president to say, yeah, I support this, or no, I don't support this. And if you don't support it, pick up the phone and tell Macron to stand down, that America will not back this up. These are things that need to be discussed. Right now, they're not being discussed. France is on full automatic. Ladies and gentlemen, they just mobilized a regiment, gave it its orders to be prepared to go to Romania for the purposes of deployment to Ukraine. Once that happens, we're on full automatic.
Wow. I want you both to respond to that. General Flynn first.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with Scott. I mean, Scott Ritter there, Colonel Ritter, he's a very experienced guy. He knows the red lines, as he described, because he's been in that world for a long, long time. And Rob, Colonel Manus probably, and knows just as well. I think that the way that this is happening, and the lack of interest that appears to be from our White House right now in this situation, or certainly whether it's lack of interest or just a lackadaisical approach to this, as though we're going to show up and things are going to change. This is really, really dangerous. I mean, the thing about warfare is it's not fair. And when you start to take action, the second and third and fourth and fifth order consequences have to be thought through. The scenario that Colonel River just laid out. I mean, I hope that the Department of Defense, I hope that somebody's awake tonight, walking through these scenarios and then taking that advice over to the White House and briefing it to the National Security Council, and exactly as Colonel River was talking about, getting somebody to talk to at least acknowledge that yeah, this could happen. And I do appreciate his bringing in Congress to this, because we're supposed to be a country that allows our elected representatives to decide whether or not we're going to go to war. In this case, we are talking about nuclear war. I've never talked about nuclear war this much in my entire military career, and that goes all the way back to the first 10 years, 11 years of being in the Cold War, where it was a standoff between Russia or the Warsaw Pact and the West, right? I mean, we've been talking about use of nuclear weapons here now for months. This is just out of control. And if we take these steps, if we allow France to take these steps, we don't even have a hotline anymore. We learned with the Tucker Putin interview that Putin hadn't even spoken to Biden in over 2 years. So this not good. That's my 2 cents on the severity of what we're facing.
No, if the American people were aware of this, we'd have millions of people in the streets right now demanding that this not happen. I would hope so, because I don't believe the American people are collectively suicidal. I do believe the American people oftentimes are collectively stupid. But you can overcome stupidity by acquiring knowledge and information, which is why we wrote the memorandum. But I'd like to believe that once the American people realize that we are on this automatic course towards nuclear annihilation, that if we don't do anything to stop this, a possible or probable outcome is that they won't survive the summer. All you guys planning a summer vacation right now, it's going to end with a blinding flash if we don't stop this, if we don't stop this insanity. If the American people knew this, they'd be in the streets. They'd be filling. Millions of people be surrounding the White House. Central Park in New York City would be packed. San Francisco would be shut down because the American people should come out, stand up and say, not just no, but hell no, not in our name. But they're not. They're all getting up today, getting ready, going to work, living their lives as if nothing's happening.
Wow, very, very serious. I want to, you want to say something, General?
Well, I do. I mean, I want people to understand that Scott Ritter is a very, very serious guy. He is not prone to hyperbole. He definitely understands this issue. He's been for many, many years one of the leaders in all of the nuclear armed talks we've had for a long time. I mean, so he's not prone to. He's not a guy that's prone to just throw these things out lightly. He's very serious, and I think we should take him very seriously. One of the things I will do is I'm going to go dig into this letter, because I have not read the letter. I was aware of it earlier today when I heard that clip, and I'm going to take a look at it myself. And like Rob just said, I mean, we haven't heard this kind of talk about nuclear exchange, nuclear weapons. I mean, even from the time, I think, of the Cuban Missile Crisis, that lasted only a very short time when there was conversations between Khrushchev and Kennedy. Now we don't even have a person who can finish a complete sentence in the White House. And we're facing a guy in Putin who is another very serious person. And his threshold is probably getting to a point where it's going to cross that threshold. And if he feels that there are steps being taken that are threatening the sovereignty of Russia, he may take that initial first step and be preemptive. And I hope that I'm wrong.